C'baoth, looking very good on that cover. I joined his cult.
Join his gym too.
Is that what's in the mountain? It's just a gym?
One of the Emperor's treasures is a Pilates machine.
Right.
A Bowflex?
Imperial Thigh Master, right? Yeah.
He's the Imperial Thigh Master.
Hello there. You found the Lost Holocron, an ancient artifact of lore and legends from a galaxy far, far away. Each episode of the Lost Holocron, you will join an episodic discussion of media from the Star Wars universe. We will be your guides. Tim.
Hey, everybody.
Kyle.
Howdy.
Scott.
Hello.
And me, Stuart. We'll be covering the material up to and including Chapter 4 of Heir to the Empire. Scott, what happened so far?
So, it's been 5 years after the Empire's defeat over Endor in Return of the Jedi. On the ex-Imperial capital of Coruscant, Luke, Leia, and Han are struggling not only with their evolving identities, but also with the demands on their expertise as the militaristic rebellion aspires to establish a legitimate and functioning government. Meanwhile, led by Warlord Grand Admiral Thrawn, the Empire is gathering strength to regain lost ground against the New Republic. His plan takes an expedition to Myrkr, where Captain Pallaeon and Tallon Karrde parley for the Empire to collect the native ysalamiri. Karrde suspects it is a tool to use against Luke Skywalker, though to what end, he can only guess. So, Tim, what happened in this chapter?
Quite a bit, honestly. It was a pretty beefy one, but Grand Admiral Thrawn and Captain Pallaeon traveled to Wayland, which is a low-tech world hiding a storehouse of the late Emperor's personal treasures and technology, which is salient to Thrawn's grand plan. They were expecting a Dark Jedi Guardian, but Thrawn thwarted the usurping ruler named Joruus... My god, guys. How do you pronounce that name?
I've been calling him C'baoth.
C'baoth?
C'baoth, yeah, but Scott, what does the audiobook say?
So the audiobook says Joruus C'baoth.
Yeah.
Joruus C'baoth. Wow. Well, anyway, Thrawn thwarted Joruus C'baoth's snare with a demonstration of the ysalamiri's unusual ability to vacate the Force.
This is definitely a beefier, chunkier chapter, and it goes on a while. But I love the visuals in this chapter.
Me too.
I love the it kind of described how there was 3 different types of architecture, and the main palace kind of incorporated all 3. Yeah, I enjoyed a lot of what this chapter said about the area.
Yeah. Did it give a description as to what the climate was like?
No, I didn't pick up on anything like that.
Yeah. I think visually I just kind of assumed it was pretty temperate, well forested.
I actually imagined a pretty brown world, a little overcast with gray skies. I don't know why that image got to my head, but I was just thinking of a very neutral, slightly dark place.
It was incorporated into the forest as well, it seemed like, as that was part of the... it pointed out that it was a low-tech world.
Yeah.
Bows and arrows, yeah.
Yeah, bows and arrows. Right. Nothing that you can see from orbit with your eyes closed, as Thrawn put it. I really like that line. That was pretty cool.
That was good.
But as far as what it felt like, the city, it certainly felt incorporated into the forest and a focus on being low tech.
Speaking of the arrows, I got a strong visual, the arrow missed, but it's in the Star Wars universe, you don't really think of gore that often, but I just got a strong visual of an arrow going through Thrawn's neck and him just dying that way.
Yeah, it's a Mario than that.
How upsetting it would be to see anyone in the Star Wars universe just get a sharp object through the neck.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's a Hunger Games vibe.
It's usually the blasters, or just when when it was the Ewoks, there was a little more traps kind of thing, but it was them getting blunt forced. But there's not a lot of I don't know why, but just really got a strong visual of somebody getting an arrow to the neck because they weren't looking.
Yeah, well, it says the arrow bounced off his body armor, and I immediately thought of the Ewoks just murdering the stormtroopers. It's how did they Yeah, they use heavier stones and stuff,
Well-
and logs crashing into each other. But it's like, how did the stormtroopers fall victim to the Ewoks so easily if the arrow just bounced off of Thrawn's body armor?
Well, apparently they explained that. I can't remember when or where, but they explained that stormtrooper armor is very good against blasters, but very weak against blunt force. It does not protect.
How?
It doesn't so. That's why people can just use bow staffs to kind of just hit them over the back of the head, and they just die.
Right.
Do blaster bolts have any blunt force to them?
Oh, that's.
I don't know.
I
I've
don't
always
know.
wondered that.
Is it like
It seems-
Cyclops' laser, where it's not heat, it's pressure?
Haven't we
It's
seen people
energy.
fall back or something when they get shot, or especially with Chewie's bowcaster in Force Awakens?
Yeah, I assume that was more of an explosive concussion.
I think bowcasters are different. Bowcasters have something else in them, not just the standard Tibenian gas.
True.
It does seem like they have some kind of projectile.
True. But have we seen that happen with a blaster?
I think most of the damage from a blaster comes from being burnt or energy dissipation, but they would still have some sort of momentum that would knock you down.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I mean, I guess that makes sense in that case.
What I'm guessing is that Stormtrooper armor has some a metamaterial in it that's ablative to particular kinds of energy, which is why they can take glancing blows with high energy blasters and not get burnt.
Mm-hmm.
But direct hits are.
Yeah, their armor's good against environmental issues. It's good against like a bladed weapon, I guess, to an extent. Cut or something like shrapnel. But yeah, they do seem pretty vulnerable to blaster fire, and they do seem pretty vulnerable to a stick hitting them over the head.
Yeah.
Protective gear is kind of interesting. How it's just depending on how it's made, depends on what it protects you from. At work, I work with a lot of metal, and I have these sleeves that I have to wear to make sure my arm doesn't get cut. But it only protects me from getting cut. You can easily stab through it, but if I take a sharp object and slice it, it won't work.
Is it like chainmail?
That's interesting.
Is it like the meat cutting gloves like you see in delis and such?
It's more of it's like a hexagon shaped fabric, and not
that sounds cool.
I'll definitely show you some of them later.
Take a picture of it.
Please do.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Kyle is the B-mancer. Always hexagons.
Yeah, just different armor does different things, and I kind of accepted it more that stormtrooper armor is good against blaster fire, not against getting hit by heavy things.
Apparently, Thrawn's is good against getting hit by heavy things, though.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he's wearing plot armor.
Maybe. Yeah.
That stuff's indestructible.
Yeah.
Maybe stones are just somehow magically go through their armor, but a metal arrow doesn't.
I mean, but he's not wearing stormtrooper armor. He's wearing assassination-proof suit.
I kind of assumed maybe it was.
Probably gets the good stuff.
He's probably wearing he's wearing the posh stuff.
Yeah, because where is Thrawn going to be vulnerable is to assassination, a blade being pushed between his ribs, and that is definitely in the realm of an arrow being fired from a tree line. So his armor, if we take that different armor does different stuff, and I think particularly when you get to the tech level that's in Star Wars, that what you are protecting against would have to be kind of specific, because if you think about metamaterials or whatever, that Kyle's, you can't get stabbed. You can get stabbed with this thing, but you can't get cut with it. And there'll be trade-off in making different kinds of materials that you would have. So
it's what's most likely to happen to you. Yeah.
So if somebody's getting past Rook, then they're probably going to be stabbing you between the ribs, and so that's the kind of body armor that he's been protecting against.
Speaking of Rook,
don't mess with him.
Yeah. When he first showed up, I was it was like, oh, he's a Nogri, and I was thinking of Jedi Academy, and I was like, oh, I sliced through those things so easily, and they seem so pathetic. And then he comes in this, and he demolishes a building, and I'm like, what?
Right.
Yeah.
And the way that it would describe to, like, scientifically and very thoroughly, that he's just looking and taking out the very specific points as he's going through it. That was so
He's
cool.
very methodical. Yeah.
Yeah.
He leveled the building with just, a few shots. Well, not a few shots, but, a few volleys of shots.
Just
I guess.
whatever blaster he was using.
It sounded like it was maybe like a minigun or something.
Like an E-Web.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it sounded like he didn't use any more shots than necessary. That even though it was 20 shots plus a few more, it wasn't like emptying the clip on the building.
Yeah, exactly. He was very surgical.
It was, I am taking out this point and this point and this point, and there just happened to be 35 points that a building needs to keep intact, and then it's visibly shaking and completely collapses.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he analyzed that just based on looking at the building, or did he have some analysis of some knowledge of its architecture based on his experience with Thrawn?
I don't know. Thrawn may have known more about it, based on its architecture and the species art. He likes to analyze the species art, but I think he definitely didn't have time to explain it to Rook.
I was more referring to maybe some of Thrawn's knowledge has rubbed off on Rook.
Oh.
I could see that being slightly the case, but I think that it would be the difference between an architect and a structural engineer. Thrawn understands the art of this, but Rook is understanding the physics of what keeps this building up and what is keeping people protected.
I gotcha. So complementary understandings.
Yeah, Thrawn kind of knows like the superficial, kind of like how it looks on the outside, but Rook understands the skeleton of it, basically, in a way.
That's a scary pairing.
Efficiency and grace.
So Thrawn will make you feel badly about how you look, and then Rook's just going to go right and break your bones.
Yeah. Thrawn will insult you, and Rook will break you.
Yeah.
Rook will break your bones, and Thrawn will make fun of how weak they were in the first place. If the Empire was there, those bones wouldn't have break.
Yeah.
I thought there was an interesting difference between Pallaeon and Thrawn in this chapter, that Pallaeon was a little bit whiny in this. He was, oh, why do we have to go to this planet? I don't think this thing's necessary. And do you really think that we can? I want stormtroopers here to protect me.
Right, yeah. Thrawn seemed more curious and inquisitive.
Yeah.
As he was going through.
Yeah, but then Thrawn is definitely a very measured character. And he's not used to being out of his element. Like, everything is Thrawn's element, or he is in control of the game. But then you're going to have to keep correcting me on the C'baoth's name. C'baoth? C'baoth.
Okay. I read the freaking summary and I forget. It's quite a name.
So C'baoth and Thrawn clearly have different images of power. What is power? And Thrawn finds it to be being able to command people, whereas C'baoth is very personal about how he feels that power is, and the kind of different expressions.
It's a dictator versus a cult leader.
Yeah.
Or a warlord versus a cult leader, I would say.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that is demonstrated most when Thrawn wants to execute that guy who shot him with an arrow.
Right, yeah.
And he just orders he orders Rook to take the shot, and even as he's doing that, C'baoth is protecting him just with a stone from the ground. And he says, no, these are my people, and I am going to dish out the punishment. Not just like execution, and I feel like that punishment is going to be very personal.
Yeah, But he was also kind of basically like, hey man, get over it. Your home is destroyed. This is our guest. It's more important. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Don't disturb the peace. Be polite.
He loses his home and gets a court-martial.
And he's told it doesn't even matter.
Right.
Oof, yeah.
Pretty terrible people in this chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
C'baoth kind of emphasizes the fact that he punishes them, and it's almost like he enjoys just laying into them and just.
Yeah.
I didn't get that was very sadistic.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like he was a very sadistic character. I think he feels like the execution of power.
I think he likes the control over people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That he enjoys the execution of power, however that might look.
Yeah.
How has this really gone to his head?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Which of them do you think is... do you think that his underlings respect him, though? That the people of the town respect C'baoth?
That's a very good question.
I think they fear him.
It's hard to decide. Yeah, I know. It's hard to kind of discern from this chapter.
So my girlfriend watches a lot of cult documentaries, and some of what she has watched has rubbed off on me. And so there's likely a lot of people who just trust him implicitly because, I mean, just the psychology of a cult person is that you have a great fear or like lack of control, and then or feel like there's a lack of control in your life, and this authoritative figure comes in. And they're like, yes, I can make everything okay. Just follow what I say. Like, I can handle that for you. And so there's probably a lot of people who feel that way about him if we're going to go with the cult leader impression or interpretation.
Yeah, and we've kind of discussed a little bit before in a previous episode, but, it's almost like Force users, even at this point, are kind of seen as deities in a way, or legendary figures or mythological figures.
Yeah.
So him being a Force user could amplify his kind of like cult leader status.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he's influencing them on some level with that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like inside their brain, because it mentions also that the Emperor was inside people's minds, giving them the will to continue fighting. And then as soon as the Emperor died, that whole coordination and fighting spirit kind of took on what Thrawn says, you were fighting like cadets. And,
that had to hit Pallaeon hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting that Thrawn may have potentially divined that about him, because Pallaeon did not like working with so many young people. So I wonder if that was pointed.
Yeah. His voice was quiet and contemptuous. You fought on like cadets. Like, jeez, that stings.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they were so dependent on the Empire, or the Emperor, to control them. You would think like
I think it's more influence rather than control.
Oh yeah. Well, okay, yeah. But it seems like they should have been able to fight competently without any kind of influence like that. They should just have been that well trained, right?
You would think so, but Thrawn also wants C'baoth to express this same influence in this new empire.
He's hoping that he can kind of basically take over for the vacancy that the Emperor's left.
As we had in chapter 1, Pallaeon is reflecting on the Emperor as a blatant attempt to bring all the power into a single point of failure. And I think Thrawn sees that and feels like, you shouldn't be relying on just this one person for power, that every point needs to be strong and uphold itself, but in moments of absolute, cruciality, that if it is crucial, everybody is pushed in a single direction. So all the fibers of a muscle are firing in that one direction.
Yeah.
It seemed kind of short-sighted for the Emperor to basically have so much control over their victory and or failure in the Battle of Endor.
But I mean, that's his hubris, right? He is the Dark Lord of the Sith, and
exactly, yeah, and that's what I was thinking too. He's
he wanted it that way. Yeah.
It's interesting that C'baoth doesn't want that, though. He enjoys being the leader of a town, but he does. And as much as he wants power, he doesn't want to be inside people's skulls and be a mind flayer.
Mm-hmm. I think it's because it takes a lot less energy to do what he's currently doing, because the technology was described as like they just kind of had bow snails, like there wasn't much to what they had. So if a Jedi were to come in and be like, look, I have magic powers, they're like, oh cool, so you're a god now, right?
Yeah, that's true.
It doesn't take a lot of effort for him to be ruling over these people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Do you think in some ways he's intentionally keeping them more primitive as well?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're pretty exclusionary of outsiders as well.
He probably wants it that way, too.
Yeah.
Well, we know what happens to all the outsiders, apparently.
They get a candle lit for them.
The candle, there's a candle lit for each one. And I always thought, so they talk about the Guardian of the Mountain being a Dark Jedi. Is it not him? Is it somebody else? Because he says, I killed the Guardian. Did he kill another Dark Jedi? I always thought I thought he was the...
Well, he describes himself as a Jedi Master.
Yeah, true, but...
I think he thinks he's a good guy.
He does. He definitely does.
I don't think he's a good person. I think he is the Dark Jedi. Just because he calls himself a Jedi, he's still doing horrible things.
Well, he is. Maybe everyone around him... Maybe everyone around him describes him as the Dark Jedi, and he doesn't know that they call him that, I guess.
So I feel like he... And as it's revealed later in the chapter, he's the clone of a Jedi. And so...
Right, yes.
I don't know. Where do you think his personality comes from?
That is a very good question.
Yeah. Because he's just a clone in physically, right? He's just a physical clone.
I had a feeling that... I guess an initial theory that being a clone, and if he knows he's a clone, then maybe he feels a lack of identity, and so maybe that influences the kind of power that he looks for, because I got the impression that he knows everything about every person in his town, every aspect of their personality, strengths, weaknesses, desires, hopes, dreams, fears, all of it. And I could see if he himself did not feel like he had a strong identity, him having a really strong interest in knowing these things about people, and furthermore influencing it in a way to potentially be like, hey, this doesn't even matter. Look how easily I can move you people because of your identities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think he's aware that he's a clone, or do you think he's just been...
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I was just kind of running with that idea.
I honestly don't think he thinks he's I don't think he knows he's a clone.
Yeah, because I don't know, he seems unstable. And don't they talk about that as clones get older, they do get more unstable? And that's why Pallaeon's really unhappy to have,
he's very apprehensive to have him aboard, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds a bit less interesting. Sorry, I'm never a fan of they become unstable plot device. I like things to always be active choices for characters.
I forget, do all clones age quickly, or is that something special that they do to some clones?
Oh, here's what's interesting about this. The Clone Wars had not been set by the time this was written.
Ah, right.
It was not clear what they were.
Very true. Yeah.
This is 1991.
In Attack of the Clones, they mentioned that they have been accelerated. Their growth has been accelerated. So that is something specifically that they put into those for the Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so then how old is this clone? Has this clone been around for a long time, and that's why he's old?
Generally, that's how people get old, yes.
It seems weird. It seems weird, how long ago did the original die then?
Well, because Thrawn was involved.
Right.
So I mean,
it
how
can't be
old is
older than
Thrawn?
Thrawn, and it can't be older than Pallaeon.
Yeah.
And Pallaeon says
Right.
that he's about mid-50s. And Pallaeon heard about the outbound flight project when he was a cadet.
Was it cadet? I thought he was a little farther along than cadet.
I heard rumors. Pallaeon frowned, thinking back. Some sort of grand effort to extend the Old Republic's authority outside the galaxy, as I recall, launched just before the Clone Wars broke out. I never heard much more about it. So he seems to characterize it as a grand effort, so it might have been something that was quite publicly, or at least in the military, it was quite a big deal. So I don't think you would have to be particularly high in the pecking order to know that it was going to be a thing. But that it ended disastrously was just like, oh, well, that happened. And quite a good cover for...
The way he describes that just communicates so much about Zahn's vision of the history before we got the prequels.
Yeah.
Because if it was something telegraphed, that means there had to be some form of proto-empire he's imagining for things. He likely didn't have the same vision of Lucas as it coming from within the Republic. I also thought it was interesting that he said that he specifically used the term Old Republic, because that means a very different thing to us now.
Right.
And it took me back at first, and then as I read on, I realized, he's talking about the Republic before the Empire came about, before the reign of it.
So what I read from that is that not that there was a proto-empire, and it still could have come from the Republic, that there was a civilian military, at least. Or at this point, in 1991, the Clone Wars, were the clones the ones that attacked the Republic, or were the clones fighting for the Republic? They didn't know at that point.
Right.
And that is still a kind of black box here as well.
Yeah.
But it does imply that there is a civilian military, or like a non-clone military that's happening for the Old Republic at this point, which Pallaeon must have been a part of.
Yeah. That is wild to think about how different things could have been.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the first page it says that he spent 50 years in the Imperial fleet. So the military is at least 50 years old.
Oh my goodness. No wonder Disney decanonized this.
Wow.
Yeah. We are in an alternate universe, guys. How does it feel?
It's definitely interesting. I'm excited to see what is in store for this.
Yeah. It's kind of exciting. It's like, it's a completely new thing. And the only reliable reference, is the original trilogy.
Yeah, I liked that feeling about the old Star Wars Legends, is when that was the EU, that everything was like loosely tied together, and there's like, in this story, the canon is what's in the story, but everything is kind of loosely associated, and the dates kind of match up, but not really, and like it just gives that kind of like
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I feel.
It's very mythological, and it's something that I wanted to point out in one of the previous chapters, and it's at the beginning of this chapter as well. It's like it took 5 days to run in light speed, or whatever, warp 75, or however they describe it. Stuff takes time, and I was complaining about this to somebody the other day, that the original movies take place over 4 years. The prequels take place over 12 years, and the sequels take place over 1 year. And like there just isn't that grandiosity of like evolution that happens. Just add a bit of breathing room.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is really cool. I have you guys ever watched A New Hope and just completely separated everything you know about what Star Wars became from then on out? Just to kind of get an idea.
And considering I didn't know any of the other Star Wars movies and I watched New Hope first, yes.
Oh, okay. You got us there. See, like, we've been with it for so long, so
Yeah.
what were some of your theories based on some of the things you heard in A New Hope?
I don't know. I mostly what I thought about is I didn't know a lot about the Star Wars story itself, but I knew mostly what fan criticisms and thoughts on it in itself, and I wondered if people felt the same way at the time of when A New Hope came out. That some people, when like The Force Awakens came out or stuff like that, where people, I imagine people weren't as excited. I imagine it's much different, like being able to watch the story as a whole and know all this stuff, and then just because I knew bits and pieces, so there was some things I was like, well, I know this and I know this, because you can't live in this day and age without just like knowing some random stuff.
Yes, yeah.
It's just
Thank you,
so
memes.
deep in our popular culture right now that you just can't avoid it.
Yeah.
I am very convinced that there is only 3 types of numbers, and there is 0, which was before Star Wars. There is infinity, which is after Star Wars. We can't conceive of a universe before Star Wars. And then there's just some arbitrary number as well. Like, what's the difference between 1 and 10, or 10 and 50, or 12 and 7? Like, they're just numbers. So you can either have a finite number, an infinite number, or nothing at all. And I think looking back, we can't compare a universe before Star Wars, our universe before Star Wars, and then the universe after Star Wars. Anything being released after that immediately has that knowledge of that Star Wars exists.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was going to say, I would love if there was a movie that came out. It has nothing to do with the fantasy or anything, but they're just like, in this universe, Star Wars doesn't exist. Because sometimes in like, I'm into a lot of horror movies, in most zombie movies or TV shows, or like they explicitly say zombies don't exist in this world.
Right.
Yeah, the mythos of zombies doesn't exist.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it would be funny if just someone just completely unrelated, just like Star Wars doesn't exist in this world, so that's why this is the way this is.
How would you communicate that in the movie, though?
It would be in the director's cut commentary.
So, my favorite scene in this chapter was the scene in the crypt, actually.
Oh,
What specifically?
What was really?
The imagery of that location really stood out to me.
Okay.
This old man, like, walking through, I kind of see him in, like, a robe or something. And then the general behind him with, like, all his technology and his, what is Pallaeon? Captain. Just that contrast between this very earthy figure and then these more modern technological figures in this place that is very strongly associated with, in a way, natural things.
Yeah.
Because,
Feels very ancient,
yeah,
but also
ancient,
very in
that's a better
tune
way
with
to put it.
very in tune with the natural surroundings.
Yeah, or the cycle of life and death, and things like that.
Particularly if C'baoth is a godlike figure among these people as well.
Exactly, definitely. So I thought there was a lot of powerful imagery in that scene. And then I was very confused by the thing with the lightning. But then, of course, they revealed what the ysalamiri do. And it's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I hate it so much. I don't like that at all. I don't like that there's lizards in the jungle that have force bubbles, and that when they gather in groups, the force bubbles get merge and get bigger.
Kilometers, they say. Yeah, that seems a little far-fetched, but...
And I get that they try to explain it by there's apparently there's animals that hunt using the force, but what exactly does that mean? Do they like pick up things and then walk up and bite out of them, or because the bubble means that it is a offensive thing. It is stopping them. So if they were using the force to track them, maybe. But it seems like it is an offensive thing because it blocks all types of force attacks. And just the fact that force lightning cannot hit a lizard. I hate it.
Yeah. It was pretty silly to imagine that. As much as I loved the imagery of the location and the characters going through it,
Yeah.
the lightning just kind of stopping at 3 feet was very bizarre for me to think about.
So the way that I imagine the ysalamiri is that they're predators. They don't have like force powers that they pick stuff up and whatever. It's a second set of eyes that they use, right? And the bubble of the force being pushed back just means that they can't use the force to smell them. They can't use the force to detect them, because one of the more intrinsic powers that the force gives the characters is understanding where people are or what they're doing, or the emotional aspects of the force is just being in tune with other people, not this very like cerebral, I'm going to throw lightning in this direction, or I'm going to lift a stone and send it flying in that direction. That's what I imagine the predators of the ysalamiri are doing. They're like perceiving. It's just we have creatures that have.
It's like the heat vision or like a pit viper's heat vision or something.
Yeah, it's either heat vision or like electroception that sharks have, or that they can feel the electric fields that are in the water to know where their fish are going or what moves they're making. And that's the way that I feel about this coming about. I didn't feel like it was particularly contrived that where this power comes from, but I certainly understand
I'm with Kyle on this one.
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, it's like, animals in our natural world have, as you were describing, like the sharks can sense it, the pit vipers can sense it. Why can't these creatures sense it without the force? Why does it have to be the force that helps them? Why can't they just have their own evolutionary, biological?
Yeah.
Well, we need a plot device in this book, so.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Yeah.
As annoying as the the anti-force bubble is, I really liked the way that Thrawn used it to his advantage.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Using knowledge as power.
Exactly.
That's a good thing. Power. I mean, personally, I could buy it if the lizards just couldn't be sensed in the force. Mm-hmm. But it's weird to have them like directly stop lightning.
Well, if you think, that's what I find strange, is that the lightning is dependent on the force even after projection.
Yeah.
It's not just the conjuring.
Mm-hmm.
It's...
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, if it was like a lightning staff or something. Yeah, if it was like a Tesla coil, why doesn't it just keep zapping, Yeah. Why does it have to stop?
If someone uses the force to throw something at one of them, does it stop as soon as the
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Does
right,
it?
right.
I think only if you are holding on to that thing as you are throwing it. But if you have used the force to launch it, then it carries its momentum. But if you're holding it, gripping it in the force and using the force to continue accelerating it, or that the force is the thing providing the velocity, then it would stop moving, which is how the lightning, that's what it feels like. The velocity of the lightning is dependent on the force traveling through these things, which seems really malicious if you think about the way that Luke is tortured by the Emperor.
Yeah.
It's not just that he's throwing lightning at him, he is extending tendrils of himself as lightning into his victims.
That is a very good point. Oh, he felt up Luke?
He felt up Luke?
Tickle fingers.
I do think it's interesting. Looking at the things that hunt the ysalamiri,
the Vornskurs.
The Vornskurs. It seems like it's trying to say that the ysalamiri are force sensitive, and that the Vornskurs like to eat things that are force sensitive. And in response to that, the ysalamiri gained the ability to project a bubble that hid their force sensitivity.
Wouldn't that make them non-sensitive in the end?
Yes, that's the thing.
Huh.
But then how does that make them stop force powers?
I'm not sure. That's just what the Wikipedia says.
It sounds like whoever wrote that Wikipedia article doesn't understand evolution.
Yeah.
I do like that apparently Mace Windu, the Form 7, what used to be referred to as the Way of the Roscon.
Yes.
Oh,
And
yeah.
oh crap! One of the other forms is named after the ysalamiri.
Oh, interesting.
Is it?
I think one of the M names, and I can't remember. I don't know
Makashi?
if it's Makashi. It might be Makashi.
Niman?
I was reading it earlier today, and I closed the article. But yeah,
Because I know that Mace Windu's variation of Form 7 is specifically named after an animal called a vapad, or vapad, however you want to pronounce it. But the main form, I think, is Way of the Vornsker. But I can't recall if any of the others are named after an animal. I know they each have their own individual ways. Like, I think Shicho is Way of the Sarlacc or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
another interesting thing I thought was Myrkr, the planet named Myrkr, which is also a Icelandic word. Myrkr means darkness.
Oh.
Ooh. So I imagined the planet right.
Hold on, this planet is
I think we were
Wayland.
describing. Yeah.
Oh, never mind. I didn't.
Myrkr is where the Ysalamiri
Myrkr is where the
native.
ysalamiri. Yeah.
They had to go pick up some pets, and then they went to the...
I actually thought Wayland was a weird name for the planet.
Yeah.
It sounds like a city name to me.
Yeah.
See, I always think of like Scott Wayland from Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh.
Because it seems very frontier, I guess. And,
Sorry.
Maybe it is a frontier world that they only settled once, and, it's quite
Possibly.
backwater, really. It's not really... They don't have a lot of stuff going on. They're not exporting a lot. They're just sitting on a storehouse of what C'baoth seems to think is quite self-ingratiating treasures. He looked down on that pretty hard.
I missed that detail, so he was like really not into all the treasures there.
Yeah, like Thrawn is asking about some like technology and the cloaking shield, and he's got other stuff, and says, you can find that in a collection of endless mementos from his glorious conquests. He snorts in the room, and that is sort of crackling self-congratulation.
So they could be more advanced.
Yeah, they could be more advanced. There's all this stuff's there, but like he seems to be very, I think, as you've seen, like close to the Earth.
Yeah.
He's kind of like the cult leader. Like, technology's bad.
Yeah.
So here's a little something that about the ysalamiri. As far as their bubble, it says on Wikipedia, the ysalamiri did not actually negate the Force, since all existence was infused with Force energy. This would not be possible. Rather, they projected a bubble inside which users were unable to exert any influence over the Force.
Okay.
Okay. That still sounds like negating the Force.
Yeah, it sounds like negating the Force. They don't negate it. They just make a bubble where you can't use it inside.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that doesn't really clarify anything. But,
Yeah.
and also, yes, it was Makashi.
Yes.
The form Makashi, yes.
Way of the ysalamiri.
Mm-hmm.
So don't those things just like stay on branches?
They kind of
like
grow
cling to
into
them?
the branches, so it seems a little silly to name a lightsaber
Yeah.
form after that. They're not exactly like monkeys jumping across,
Yeah, right? I feel like that should be Form 3, if anything.
I do wonder how they found out about the bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think someone just tried to use the Force on a lizard for fun when they're like, oh, this isn't working?
They're just like poking their head in, getting slowly closer, and they're like, oh, there's the bubble. Found the edge of
Wouldn't
it.
they be able to feel that like if somebody went to the planet?
I'm just imagining like a human metal detector in a way.
Oh,
Like getting closer and further using themselves to detect where the bubble is. Yeah.
That'd be really weird if they were just like, you just walk into the jungle and then you just feel yourself get disconnected from the Force. Like,
Oh, that would terrify me.
Suddenly you go blind.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm feeling
Yeah.
like, is like the Force is just another sense, right? Or being Force
is,
sensitive
yeah.
is another sense. So
Yeah.
I can look out over the city from 10 stories up, and then realize that there is some sort of like there's a dome over there. I can't see past that dome. It's transparent. So that's what I imagine that the ysalamiri's bubble is. It's just some transparency in the Force that you can't see through. So you wouldn't have to walk into it to know that it's there. You can just know that your sense of sight stops at this transparent piece of glass. But I can looking in that direction. I can see much further.
Right. That's a really good way to put it. Yeah.
Didn't use the word transparent, right? I mean opaque. It's opaque.
Opaque. Gotcha. I was wondering.
So back to the titles. Oh, not the titles. The cover art. What do you guys think of the cover art of the new editions?
I enjoy that when you have the other books, it makes a fuller image.
I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
On collections, if you've got those things, that putting them together makes that.
Yeah, I always loved when like DVD box sets would do that.
Oh yeah, that's nice. I mean, I think Luke's lightsaber looks terrible, but that's a mean thing. That's a me thing.
I quite like the art style itself. How Thrawn's face is very sketchy.
Yes. Yeah.
That's really appealing for me.
It is. Yeah.
But comparing it to the old style, where we've got C'baoth on the front, not C'baoth, C'baoth
Yeah.
on the front, and you've got your whole cast there, and you've got. I just feel like it's a little bit more complete on the other one.
It's very 90s.
I like it.
But yes, it does feel more. It feels more. I don't know.
That image of C'baoth has stuck with me, actually, even before I read this book.
Yeah, that's a very familiar image too, with like the light coming out of his fingers.
Yeah,
it's very iconic.
Yeah.
It's a very iconic book cover.
Yeah.
Wait, real quick, I forgot to ask earlier. There's a Star Wars character named Kyle.
Yes, there is.
Yep.
Kyle Katarn.
Kyle Katarn.
Yeah.
But he's Legends now. He's no longer canon, but
It's not canon yet.
he could. I feel like we're so close to getting Mara Jade. Like super, super close for her to coming back.
I don't know how, but I could see it.
I don't know how either, but I feel like it's going to happen. I feel like it's going to be pretty forced.
Forced.
I'm honestly pretty excited to be reading something with her in it, because I've just grown to dislike her, because I feel like the way the fandom treats her is as such a manic pixie dream girl or whatever. Or like a waifu.
Pretty much.
And it's just made me really dislike her.
We talk about the book covers and the this ripped Master C'baoth on the cover.
He does look quite ripped in that art too.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, he's got washboard abs, and
I'd join his cult.
yeah.
I know what he does in his free time now.
Yeah.
And he's got an impressive beard too.
Oh my goodness.
He's just Uncle Iroh in it in the jungle.
Oh yeah, for sure. He does give a little bit like crazed Uncle Iroh vibes.
Uncle Iroh.
That's a
if he never got his
terrifying
teeth.
thought. A crazed Uncle Iroh? Oh my goodness. None of us would survive.
For anybody who doesn't know Uncle Iroh, he is from
Like me.
Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah, I knew that much, but that's all I know.
Watch Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's very good.
Yes, very, very highly recommended.
Probably one of the best TV shows ever.
Feel free to cut this out. I love that he, in the Legend of Korra, just decided to go to the spirit realm. That he's just like, I'm going now. Goodbye, guys.
Yeah. It's great. So yeah, C'baoth looking very good on that cover. I'd join his cult.
Yeah. Join his gym too.
What if he has a gym that only he knows about and he doesn't let anyone else go there? I could see him being like that.
Is that what's in the mountain? It's just a gym?
One of the Emperor's treasures is a Pilates machine.
Yeah. Right.
A Bowflex.
Pallaeon plus a subscription.
It's got a shake weight.
Captain Kelly.
Imperial Thigh Master, right? Yeah.
He's the Imperial Thigh Master. Real quick, I did want to bring up, I really enjoyed this line from C'baoth in the chapter 4 where he says, in regards to the people on the planet is, I teach them, I command them, I punish them. Their lives and their deaths are in my hand. I just really enjoyed that.
Man, what a scary dude.
But right before that, he does, I think he says, he says, every human, Pasadan and my Neosyrian who live here are mine. Mine.
Oh my god.
Like he double emphasizes that they are his.
See, if I were in Star Wars and I were having to take on galactic threats, I would much rather face Thrawn than C'baoth. Like C'baoth, I'd be like, no, I'm not touching that planet. Just stay away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll take on Thrawn. I'll take on the Empire. I will not take on C'baoth.
No.
I also thought it was weird how Thrawn offered up Luke and Leia as if they were easily molded. Like at this point, they're like adults and like deep in a rebellion. It's not like that they're naive children.
I mean, they haven't seen those abs yet.
Now, it would be a lot scarier if he straight up offered Leia's children. Like he's like, I'll figure out how a way to get those to you.
He kind of does.
That's what I think, though, is that C'baoth is aware that the Jedi are no more, and just the chance to meet any other Jedi and like exert dominion over them was like, oh, that's a challenge. I want to try that.
Right, because
but then
Luke is also in a tough spot now. Luke would love a mentor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, especially an old Jedi Master. Like, yeah, because he's already said goodbye to Obi-Wan, and now he's kind of like, well, where do I go now?
Guys, I'm scared now.
But yeah, no, I think that he is looking forward to that challenge of like, dominating another Force user, but then even further to have the lives of the unborn children is.
Yeah,
I think he wants two different things with those, with living Jedi and yet born Jedi.
Mm.
Well, he seems to he controls the lives of all these people, so why would it? He seems very, just egomaniacal, like, oh, I can control anybody. Yeah. Like, he won't have any trouble controlling Luke and Leia. It just, that's just how I see it, yeah.
I have no basis for this, but I part of me is just like, oh, what if C'baoth, what if this C'baoth is the real C'baoth? The other one on the ship was the clone. I don't know why.
True. I mean,
maybe it's just a trope that I'm used to.
Scary dude either way.
Yeah.
Shoot him, he's the clone. No, shoot him, he's the clone.
Although his first name would probably be a bit of a giveaway potentially, but I mean, we just know that name.
Thrawn says that to Pallaeon too. He's like, listen to the obvious mispronunciation of Joruus as Joruus.
Right, yeah. When I was reading, I missed that there was a second U in there in the name. It was Joruus instead of Jorus.
Right.
And so I was like, how do you pronounce it differently? Did he say Joruus?
Yeah. So the first name of the two that I always knew of was with the two U's. So this is a Star Wars universe. Anybody can be named anything. So how did we not know that the Joruus was the actual name, what it was supposed to be?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was. He only brings up the first name a few times, so it's very easily overlooked. But to bring it back at the end to say, oh yeah, notice the W.
You know, that was a good reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like Zahn was telling his readers.
Yeah. No, I think that was very deliberate on his part.
Yeah.
The thing that also was kind of scary about Joruus C'baoth is like the speed of the Force lightning that he uses as well. I mean, in movies, there has to be some sort of like telegraphing of like, we're going to do a special effect now look at the special effects.
Yes.
Whereas in universe, it probably doesn't look like it does on screen.
No.
And certainly Pallaeon said like he didn't even have time to flinch and he would have been consumed by lightning.
Yeah.
And like that's just how fast these superpowers are. Whereas when we see it on screen, you know, a couple of dudes fighting with some light sticks and you know, throwing lightning at each other. And even like lasers on screen as well. Like they're probably a lot faster in person. Like this is a visual show for us.
Right.
Oh yeah, totally. But
Yeah,
we're also seeing it through Jedi perspective, and so they probably they have heightened reflexes because of their force sensitivity. But yeah,
right.
So I just thought that was like an interesting point.
It was. It really was.
And I think doubling down on that Pallaeon as the point of view character, not Thrawn, is very good. Very good choice in terms of storytelling as well.
Definitely. I don't want to know what's going on in Thrawn's head.
No, it makes a very good mystery. And particularly the mystery of that he's looking for some technology as well. Like, oh, it's almost as an afterthought. It's a small, trivial bit of technology. And then it mentions it again. Well, yeah, we found the cloaking shields. Yeah, the cloaking shields are something that Pallaeon understands. Yeah, this is definitely military stuff.
Yeah.
But there's an other, almost trivial bit of technology that, you know, we don't know if it's because Pallaeon doesn't understand this, but like there's a mystery there that Thrawn is definitely after something else.
Another MacGuffin. Not to be reductive, but yeah.
Well, I thought something else was basically the Jedi Master, the Jedi Joruus C'baoth. No.
Right. So he's after three things. He's after the technology. He's after something that we don't know about.
So he's after the cloaking shields.
Yeah, cloaking shields.
Oh, okay.
Unknown technology and a Jedi Master.
So I thought the something we don't know about. Okay, so I thought the something we don't know about was the Jedi Master, but I guess I missed that.
Yeah, well, it's just,
three things?
just a little bit of mystery that keeps us hungry for
interesting.
what's coming next.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The other thing is I was a little confused. So when they're talking about the cloaking devices, are they just short on cloaking devices and they need them, or is this like a brand new technology that they don't have yet?
It seems like a new technology because he's looking for blueprints or a prototype or the first working model.
Oh yeah, schematic or something. Yeah. Is it like a specific type? Because in Return of the Jedi, when they're having the battle, or I think is it Return of the Jedi? Whatever it is, when basically like the Millennium Falcon like slaps itself onto the Star Destroyer because no ship that small has a cloaking device, so they know about cloaking devices.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No ship that small before Mauls came along.
Right.
Yeah. Well, even that could have been like black market technology or something that wasn't known to the general public.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good retcon.
So yeah, I'm guessing that the shielding technology is a cloaking shield. Maybe it's a combination of shields and cloaking.
Yeah.
So
when you said that, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
You can't be cloaked and shielded at the same time. So if they spot you visually, then they can just shoot you down because you can't have your shields up because that would show up on their on the scanning technology.
They could just like pull you up on like a heat screen or something. Be like, oh, there they are, blast them. You know, the heat signature.
Yeah, I mean, like it's definitely very useful military technology, particularly if it's cutting edge.
Regardless, it's something that Thrawn needs.
Yes, Thrawn is after quite a few things, and it looks like he has 2 of them so far.
Yeah.
The ysalamiri, the cloaking shield, and the Jedi Master as well. So we've got 3 things. And 4 things that we don't know about.
A fourth thing that he doesn't know, that we don't know about yet.
He's just collecting all his stuff.
Just like his art.
Thrawn's actually a collector.
He's like, no, I just think this looks cool. I'm not here to actually use it.
I just like having it.
He just loves that. He just loves C'baoth's abs. He just wants to have that as a collection.
That's the missing piece of technology.
It's his freaking Bowflex or whatever. It's the fourth thing
the
he's
Emperor,
after.
he had these stories that he would just only mention in passing, but I wanted to find the technology for the 5-minute abs. He kept talking. No, it's 4-minute abs. No, 3-minute abs.
A little vibrating. It's a vibrating belt that you strap on.
The chapter closes with Pallaeon really unhappy with the deal that he's cut. Do you think that it's been a good deal so far? Or do you think this is a stable partnership, or at least something that Thrawn can control in the end? Like if things go south, that he can just eliminate him or something.
I think it's definitely in Thrawn's favor.
It feels like it is, yeah, because Joruus C'baoth seems very, it's like, Jedi, cool, okay, yeah. Can't remember how to describe it, but it's like he's basically blinded by his greed, the prospect of Jedi, and so Thrawn is using that to his advantage. Thrawn knowing full well that, Thrawn in his arrogance believes that he can easily capture Luke and Leia, but he's promised them to C'baoth without having them yet. But so I feel like he definitely has the upper hand here. Joruus C'baoth is so easily blinded by his greed, I guess.
Yeah, I think you put that very well. That he does seem to have a kind of... He's in control of that situation. That, no, there's nothing you can offer me. Like, I have all the power that I want.
Yeah.
You know, what could you even be talking about? And then as soon as, like, he mentions Jedi... Oh, wait, there are other Jedi? What do you mean?
Yeah.
And then, but not just Jedi that you can, do whatever you want with, but children Jedi. And then he's... Yeah. Then he's totally lost control of the situation.
I'm happy with everything I got. Oh, but look at this shiny object. Ooh, okay, yeah. I'll go with you now.
Yeah.
I am very excited to see. I enjoy hearing about the Jedi that just kind of went off on their own after 66 happened. I enjoy hearing the rogue Jedi that are just kind of in hiding.
What's crazy is that there wasn't an Order 66 in this.
Oh, was there no Order 66 in Legends?
From what's been told. Yeah.
There was still a type of purge,
it's just an extermination.
Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't happen the way that... At this point, it didn't happen the way it happened in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was still some type of purge.
Honestly, my interest in this book tripled after noticing that. I was like, alternate universe, I want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of C'baoth, though, that name seems to mean something to Pallaeon when he finds out that he's... As soon as his name is revealed, Pallaeon is like, "Oh, what do you mean?" And then later, he's talking with Thrawn, and he wants to. He doesn't understand. He didn't know about the assassination. That the real one is dead, the original. That would be a clone. Do you think C'baoth was a famous Jedi Master, or that he knew about an assassination or something and expected this to be like he survived an assassination attempt? Or what do you guys' theory about that?
Could it have been reported to the Jedi that he survived, and then word got out like, oh, he survived?
I don't know. I imagine if there was a assassination with 6 Jedi on a ship, that would be a somewhat big headline for people in the military.
I think it's more about the act itself and not necessarily the people involved in it, though those people may be famous Jedi. Even then, I think Pallaeon's familiarity would come with maybe reading about it and, that name kind of rings a bell a bit. In the case of this C'baoth clone himself, I think he probably likes the obscurity that he has right now. If he's even aware that he's a clone, because he can go on his backwater planet and control his people, and no one would know. But I mean, there's not enough information for me to really speculate beyond that.
Okay.
Yeah.
certainly more to talk about and see how it ties in coming in later.
Oh yeah.
I'm very
Does anybody else
excited
have
for that.
any other thoughts about this chapter?
It was a cool one.
This is
I liked how
yeah.
the guards. I liked how the guards were like hidden in the walls.
Yeah, I like that detail too.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pallaeon thought that he was talking to him, and then suddenly these two figures, come out of the walls and then leave.
Yeah. That was awesome.
They would describe as scrawny as well, which is kind of a strange description, I felt.
Oh.
For
Maybe they had to be thin to hide in the walls.
Yeah.
Right.
Although I wonder if they
It's like-
want guards per se as to just like door boys. What do you call them? Doormen?
Door boys.
They're just there to
Bellhops.
they're just there to open the doors. And
with crossbows.
he's
But would
Oh,
they
they have
have had to
crossbows,
have been?
They
Yeah.
did.
We didn't really talk much about the candles. We kind of briefly mentioned them, but that every off-worlder visitor gets a candle after C'baoth basically fries him with lightning because he's so.
Oh,
You said something about him. You said I think it was you, Stuart, said that you didn't really get a sadistic vibe from him. I got a very sadistic vibe from him because look at all these candles, basically mercilessly electrocutionated everybody,
Do you guys know how candles are made? Oh no, wait, that's soap. Never mind.
So
Oh.
yeah,
I was going
I
to
think-
say that he electrocuted them, and then the soapification of their fat as they're being fried was used as for the candles. But
Gross.
and that's definitely very sadistic.
He used their earwax instead.
Why do you think so many people were coming to Wayland?
Man, I don't know.
yeah, I was
Was
wondering
it
that
so
too.
many?
But
How many? Like he's like, look at all these candles. How many candles were there though?
I got the impression it was like the room was full of candles, but maybe it could have been 10 for all we know. I guess.
I mean, 10 is a lot of people to kill.
Yeah, it couldn't have been that small though, because Thrawn assumes that it is the locals paying homage to the
Oh yeah,
previous
the fallen.
Guardian.
Yeah.
It could be big
Right.
candles.
Well, it would have to
What?
they would have to be so numerous as to seem to come from the locals, or equal the population of whatever was there. So
Visual. Yeah.
yeah,
True.
visually, it would be hundreds,
Huh.
or at least 100, probably.
That's kind of what I got the impression. Yeah, I got there's at least 100 or so.
So quite a popular world to be visiting.
Maybe it's a popular destination to go and unplug or whatever. like those no cell phone cabins. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Live in this cabin for a week and you get $100,000 or whatever.
Oh no, here in Georgia,
No cell
near me,
phone,
there are
no
actually some
internet.
cabins you can go to where they have safes where you can put your phones
Oh,
away.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
cool.
it could be something like that. Lots of people from Coruscant.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know what a tree looks like.
Oh,
Really
right.
cool chapter overall. I'm really excited to see what's next.
It was good. Yeah.
Yeah, I like how that already some of the dominoes that have been set up in the previous chapters, the interplay between Pallaeon and Thrawn and Rook, and the going to collect the ysalamiri, and there's just like there's dominoes being lined up, or things are being connected in a chain that just like it feels like a good progression of
It
things.
does. It was nice to have that acted upon so soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, I think as you said, it's very good to set things up and have some payoff
Yes.
quite early, because it shows good faith in storytelling, and it's not just continual setup. That things have weight in the universe and they're moving in certain directions.
yes, definitely.
I find that
I am excited to see what happens
good
next.
storytelling. Yeah, well, this has been The Lost Holocron. You can find transcripts, links to discussions, and more at our website, lostholocron.com. While you're there, you can learn how to support the creation of future episodes. Read on, and we'll be waiting for you in the next transmission. We would be honoured if you would join us.